Hey folks, my name is Provis and welcome to more Plague Inc. Evolved as we continue with our official scenario Mega Brutal Guide series in the new Aliens and Anti-Vaxxers DLC. Herd immunity is next. What doesn't kill humanity makes it stronger! In this upgraded simulation, infected people may now recover from diseases and develop a natural immunity to prevent reinfection. Can herd immunity save the world? This is a weird scenario because I'm probably, almost certainly, not going to kill everyone. In fact, I think it's borderline impossible, and yet we're still going to win this scenario. I'll explain a bit more, but it's an interesting one. Very interesting. As usual, you can play with any of the disease types except for some of the special ones like the Nurax worm. I'll go ahead and play with a generic bacteria because it's more important you understand how the scenario works, and then you can pick and choose which is your favorite, which will get you the highest score. We'll go for ATP boost, Darwinist, Aquasonic Streamophile, and Symptostasis, Mega Brutal, and sure, Infection Condition, why not? Alright, so in this simulation, infected people may now recover from diseases and develop a natural immunity. Basically, if someone is infected, and they do not die quickly enough, eventually they will count as a recovered person. Your goal is to have infected everyone on the planet at least once. Whether they die or not, that's not actually that important. It's good for a score, it's good for generating DNA, but it's not strictly necessary. As long as they've been infected and the entire world is either dead or recovered, we can say that you did your job. Honestly, odds are pretty good. You'll only be able to kill about a third of the planet before everything comes to an end. Unless you got a really good strategy, in which case I would absolutely love to see that. Otherwise, you're going to play this more or less the same as usual. Here's the real downside of the scenario, though. So it's kind of like the Necrovirus in that you'll have the population divided up into dead and zombies. As long as everyone's infected, you win, right? Well, in this case, they're not zombies, they're alive, which means they're still contributing to the cure. So in that way, you could say that this scenario is a little bit tougher because, well, they'll actually be working on that cure pretty aggressively still. So you need to be moving pretty fast, but with most of the strategies I go for, I mean, as long as you're going fast, you're going to end up being fine. Let's go for our standard lineup of going toward the skin lesions, then I'm going to be picking up things like some sneezing. Might actually go ahead and go for things like some abscesses, cysts, hypersensitivity as well. Not strictly necessary at this exact second, but I've kind of become more and more of a believer that getting some abscesses early on is not bad, just for some of that extra severity early on. It's pretty good. Then we can focus on getting some early transmissions. Now, since we started in Saudi Arabia, probably going to go for things like the air transmission. You all know I'm a big fan of that. The mutation chance, of course, isn't so bad, and considering speed is of the essence, it's not even a bad idea to go for things like livestock, like birds and stuff pretty early on if you want to. Not bad, but we'll just go ahead and stick with the kind of basic lineup. Again, the strategies I've shown you guys across all these different diseases, it's not necessarily to get the absolute best, most optimal score. It's usually to find something that is very consistent, and this strategy typically does work. Infected are now recovering in Saudi Arabia, so if you take a look over here in Saudi Arabia, we will see, for now our numbers will probably be going up because we're still kind of more of an acceleration phase, but eventually these numbers will start going down. Eventually it's going to even hit 0, which is kind of crazy. Now, if you can get things like necrosis, that's a pretty good way of ensuring that everyone on the planet is going to get infected at least once, which is kind of one of my big goals here, so it's kind of the same strategy we normally would follow to that extent. And then as long as there's some dead in the country, you're probably going to be able to infect everybody and therefore win the scenario without too much of an issue. And then it's just a question of how quickly can I get myself some nice score. I'm going to go ahead and refund the tumors. I don't need the lethality at this stage. I will pick up things like the hypersensitivity and the pneumonia. That'll help as we continue spreading around in places like Europe, and eventually I think we are now in Russia. That's great. Let's go ahead and grab ourselves some cold resistance and some drug resistance. That'll be helpful. We've mostly got the stuff that I really care about. I just want to make sure that we're not going to fall behind in all the other things. But yeah, this is a pretty standard lineup. Now, I will say from all these official scenarios that we have been playing, like the last 3 or 4 in a row have been like, yeah, play the way you normally play. Yeah, but just play the way you normally play. And it's like, I don't know, I kind of would like to have a bit more variation, but I will say the idea of, like, let's say in the last one with the vaccinations blocking out a bunch of the population, or in this one with a covering population, I think they give some pretty great ideas for what people can do in things like some custom scenarios, and I am all for it. We could go for things like necrosis kind of early on, could go for that coma. Very tempted to go for the coma, to be honest, but that extra severity could become a problem. Let's go ahead and grab ourselves a couple levels of livestock transmission since we are still spreading kind of slowly in Russia. Could go for the extreme bioaerosol. Gonna hold off on that. Don't think I need to right now. Tempted to go for something like the necrosis now. What are we missing? New Zealand, Caribbean, and Greenland. Okay, so let's keep an eye on some of those. Not spreading fast in places like, are we even in Mexico? No, we're not even in Mexico. Yeah, our spread kind of sucks. So let's go ahead and grab some birds. That should speed things up quite a lot. There we go. Now we're getting a few places that I cared about. Got into Greenland. There's New Zealand. That's everything we care about. Boom. See, that solved the problem. Go for necrosis. Go for the coma. Start working toward that total organ failure. Now, notice here, the numbers for infected are still going up, but if we go to Saudi Arabia, it's going down substantially by hundreds of thousands per day, which is interesting. So now it's really going to be a question of how quickly can we kill people? How many can we kill before this is the end? I'm pretty confident we're going to be able to infect the entire world. That's going to happen. Thank you, Necrosis. You're just that freaking good, but you get the idea. Let's go ahead and work toward the insanity. That's not so bad. I'll start working toward things like, let's say, dysentery and stuff. I do find, by the way, that going for things like vomiting and sneezing is pretty good. I forget about, like, the projectile combos. Sometimes that is actually pretty nice. Let's get hemorrhagic shock next. That cure is going, but, like, to be honest, this scenario is going to be over long before we're able to get to this point. I just need to have everybody be infected, and we're going to be just fine. Systemic infection, immune system, does any of this actually matter? Not really. At this point, all that really matters is just going ahead and grabbing scores. So let's grab a couple of the genetic reshuffles, setting things back a little bit. Now, it's not going to immediately end just because the entire world has been infected. We have to wait for everybody to have recovered first. But you can see here my infected numbers are dropping dramatically. It's almost as if we're being cured. I mean, obviously we're not, but it's the same basic principle here. We're going to end up with a 50% cure rate or so, maybe about to like 53, 54, 55. Come on, I wish we could slow that down just a little bit more, but it's fine. Either way, though, that's it. No one's infected, and yet it is still victory, because the entire world has either been killed by the disease or they recovered from the disease. We got 3 stars. Holy crud, I did not actually expect to pick that up. Sweet! 311 days, 58% cure progress, 73,065 points, 3 freaking stars. Yeah, same exact thing you would normally do. There's really nothing that special or unusual about this. There's nothing custom at all, except for the fact that the entire way that the scenario plays is different and your objective is different. But hey, cool. My strategy still works. We got a great score, and it's a pretty cool idea. I really feel like we played a custom scenario very similar to this in the past. Probably actually have, and I bet you this is actually derived from that. I could be wrong, but either way, that's one more down. Now we get to go to some of the really wild stuff. Hell on Earth is going to be our next official scenario, and I am excited for that one. Thank you all very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If so, I would ask you to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, join the Discord server if you want to talk more Plague Inc., and I will see you guys next time.